afternoon, everyone. It's Mobile Meltzer. That's Eminem right here, live at office hours with my two friends, Double B, Blaine Bartlett, and Double J, John Jennings. Welcome, gentlemen, to office hours.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Well, Blaine, I'm going to start with you real quick. It's always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
You as well.
I think you might be in Southern California, actually.
I'm not too far from. I'm down in Newport Beach right now.
It looks like it. And if anyone has not followed Blaine Bartlett, if they're not part of the Mindset Mastermind, not part of reading the books that this man is, you're making a big mistake, because he's my best and favorite mentor in business and mindset of business, which has led me to from great failures. Anyway, John Jennings also has written a book. He's the president and chief strategist of St. Louis and Family Office. And he wrote a book that's utilized every day, The Uncertainty Solution. And it's how to invest with confidence in the face of unknown. Well, the only thing that I know that's certain is the unknown. And,
that's right. That's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love during in COVID, people like, oh my God, there's so much uncertainty. I was like, wow, if you could tell me exactly what's going to happen tomorrow, I know how to make billions of dollars. So I've been waiting for that person that's certain about what's happening tomorrow. But confidence in uncertainty is absolutely a value add. And I want to start, John, with seems to be something that helps me is in the context of uncertainty, I found to look at what we have control of. And I was wondering how that applies to a philosophy or strategy in your book. Is there some sort of internal work that needs to be done in order to have the certainty of the unknown in investment?
Yeah, David, you nailed it. So really what my book is about, starts with talking about uncertainty, how we, why and how we've evolved to dislike it. But really the answer isn't to grasp and try to find certainty in that which is inherently uncertain. It's really to find confidence by developing a lattice work of mental models. And this whole concept was pioneered by Charlie Munger, who of course is Warren Buffett's business partner. And what I've done in my book is brought together 35 mental models that are applicable to investors, but many of them are also applicable just to making decisions in daily life. So I found what great investors do is when faced with uncertainty, they pull out those mental models that are applicable at the time period. And to your point, David, they're the things that we do know and what we have control over, right? So that's exactly the point of my book. Anybody that buys it thinking that, this book is going to help me get rid of uncertainty, sorry, can't do that. Don't have that crystal ball available. But, what can we do? What do we know? What do we have control over to make better decisions and have better behavior is exactly what the book is about.
See, what I love about both the title, but also your referencing of Charlie and whatnot is, it's an admonition that I work with my leaders that I'm consulting and coaching with is, how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do? Given that you probably don't know what to do most of the time if you're moving yourself forward. If you know what to do all of the time, you're basically treading water. Yeah. So the concept of investing has to do with, obviously something coming back to me. Mm-hmm. In your work with family offices, as an example, the notion of using wealth for impact, that notion of what's the impact is an unknown, particularly in some of the family businesses that I work, or family offices that I work with. It's kind of like when we're talking about impact, we've got an abstraction, but what is it that we're actually doing? And that uncertainty can hold back a lot of activity that could otherwise be unleashed.
Yes.
How do you address that, John?
So in impact, are you talking about like values aligned investing, investing and using your capital to, affect the world in a way? Yeah. So exactly. So yeah, traditionally, investors looked at, they wanted to invest as much money as they could over here, and then, if they're philanthropic or charitable, they'd give it away over here. but yeah, there's this concept now, and I know there's gotten some backlash. It's ESG and stuff is like a bad word now. I know that there's legislation in Florida or something to prohibit investing as a ESG investor, but it's a concept much broader than that, and it's that if you have capital to invest, what you do with that money can actually affect what happens in the world, right? How you put it forth. And what's interesting is you can, and some people say, oh well, I don't want to give up returns, and there's a lot of studies going back and forth on whether investing this way, you sacrifice returns. But I'll tell you one effective way that we've done with many of our clients that you're not going to give up returns is to say, okay, let's say I don't want to, I don't like, or I don't necessarily want to invest in, the oil company majors. I don't want to, Exxon and Chevron and BP and all them. One way to invest is to say, well, I'm going to own shares in them, but I'm going to make sure and vote my proxies in accordance with my values. And if you think about it, whether or not I buy shares of stock in Exxon or not, right, and then the fund is Exxon, isn't going to really affect Exxon's business, whether they have another little shareholder or not. But if enough proxy holders get together or vote their proxies in a way, they can actually have an effect on the company, which is exactly what happened with Exxon a few years ago when one of its shareholders, Engine Number One, put together a resolution and got some board members on the board that were actually changing Exxon's direction a bit, which is a huge victory for people that value that sort of thing. And it was done not by excluding Exxon, but instead owning it and voting in a certain way. And I think that can be a very powerful way for most investors to invest in accordance with their values. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And John, how do you fit in under the context of being confident in the unknown with our biggest fear, financial security? Timing and risk tolerance. One of the biggest advancements I've had in being confident in investment, and you're looking at someone that lost over $100 million, so it took a little while to have any confidence at all. And every time I did make money with an investment after my bankruptcy, it was a big pill to swallow of insecurity and changing the meaning of my past, a variety of things. But once I got comfortable with doing the work with a strategist like yourself and reading books like the one that you came out with, that really showed me, hey, why don't you start by figuring out your own timing and risk tolerance, and then somebody can help you. Because as long as you align an investment with that, how does timing and risk tolerance analysis really affect our confidence?
Yeah, so I think and first of all, let me say, thank you for sharing your story. I read, that forward that you wrote in, I forget the name of the book, but you laid out your story and your bankruptcy. And I think, it's like, to quote Brene Brown, vulnerability is strength. And that's a very strong thing. And I'm sure, horrible at the time, but if you look back, probably it was a very meaningful thing that changed your life for the better. And I think that's true for so many people. Things that seem horrible at the time end up, really, if they go about it the right way, can really vault them to these other levels of success, which it obviously has for you. So anyway, kudos, for that. But, I think a key thing to have confidence in the face of uncertainty is first of all, to recognize when you're feeling uncertainty and own it. And say to yourself, in my case, it'd be like, John, I'm feeling uncertain. Instead of doing a lot of the things that humans are primed to do in the face of uncertainty, which are not helpful or even counterproductive, I'm going to step back. I'm going to own it. And then it is this concept of focusing on what you know and you can control. And I think a thing that is really freeing is to understand so many things that investors think they need to know or to hire somebody that they're going to know in order to invest well. Just, you don't need to have them. Like, there's this idea in investing that you have to be able to predict the future in order to invest well, or have an advisor that can tell you what's going to happen in the future. Well, the problem is that's not really possible. And in fact, most experts that are the ones that are going to give you an opinion about what's going to happen in the economy or the market are the ones that you least want to listen to, because there's actually an inverse relationship between their confidence in predicting and their prediction ability, right? So investment experts, political experts, economic experts, atrocious at predicting. So it's better, instead of, if you're going to go out to sea in a boat, instead of listening to somebody say, here's what the weather's going to be like, there's going to be, smooth sailing and there's not, or it's going to be a storm, instead of being, in the wrong type of boat, the better strategy is to say, I'm going to invest like I don't know the future, because I don't, and realize that there's not some mythical guru that can see around corners into the future. And I think that's, like, at first that my editor, when I was first going through, outlining this book with her and everything, she goes, you know what, John, this book is a little bit like learning there's no Santa Claus. and sorry to anybody that, is, that was news to them on the show, that there's no Santa Claus, right? But
I got the whole crowd, you're safe.
Yeah, good, right. Easter Bunny's alive and well, though, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Still hopping around. But I think it's better to acknowledge the inherent unpredictability of the future in the markets, because you can't, than it is for us to kid ourselves and to be searching around for, that expert that's going to be able to deftly weave us in and out. And, I was looking at an article in Bloomberg this morning that showed the different projections of what the Fed funds rate is going to be based on Fed futures. And it was showing, an entirely different curve from just a month ago. In 6 months, it was showing a percent higher. Now it's a percent lower. And even from this week to last week, it was totally different. And I mean, these aren't just people making predictions. These are people using their own money to chart the course of what they think the Fed funds rate's going to be. And I just think, and the Fed doesn't even know. Like, if you look, this time last year, what they thought interest rates were going to be and inflation compared to what it is, it's night and day. So I think it's important and freeing to be able to say, I'm going to invest in a way where I don't have to predict the future. And that hopefully should give investors a lot of confidence that they don't need to wait to invest, that they don't need to find the exact right advisor to invest. They have to follow the right process and have the right strategy to invest is really, I think, the key to investing with confidence in the face of the unknown. And that's why I have all these mental models, which one to pull out. So I have one called The Stock Market is Not the Economy. And it explains the fact that you can't look at what the news is about the economy and then use that to inform your investment decisions, because they're uncorrelated currently, but it's really the stock market that predicts what the economy is going to do. Not perfectly, but ish. The economy doesn't predict what the stock market's going to do. So we use this with clients in March of 2020 when COVID was raging. But like at the market bottom on March 23rd, there was only 1,000 COVID deaths. And if somebody had said, like, even if you could see the future, and somebody said, okay, there's going to be, millions of COVID deaths worldwide, and international travel is going to be shut down, and basketball and hockey and all these sports leagues are kaput, and restaurants are going to go out of business, and unemployment's going to spike by 15%, and GDP, this quarter is going to be down, what was it, 14% or
14%?
Yeah, just crazy. And the initial unemployment claims, 3 million. Like, the chart didn't even work that the Wall Street Journal printed. Like, if you knew all that on that date, that was still in the future, you probably would say, I'm not going to invest. I'm going to pull all my money out. But using the stock market is not the economy mental model, which is, it's not going to help to know. And even if we did, it wouldn't tell us. And what we think we know, doesn't tell what the stock market's going to do, is perfect. We actually rebalanced clients in the stocks. It went up 70%. And the point wasn't, we didn't call the bottom. We knew that just because the news was bad and getting worse didn't mean the market was going to continue to get worse. Same thing happened in 08, 09. It happens over and over and over again. So that's an example of a mental model that can give you confidence in the face of incredible uncertainty, for example, that we had it during COVID.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Amazing. I think those same experts predicted a dry winter here in California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
preparing for a drought. Anyway, John, everyone, what a great book for any time, any season. The Uncertainty Solution, I'm sure, is applicable as well to other things as well, with philosophies and practices and a guide to help us all understand not just financial news and data, but multiple ways of creating more wealth and more certainty in uncertainty. Thanks for joining us. Come back and visit us soon.
Well, thank you. It's and fun to have mobile Meltzer.
Mobile Meltzer.
I'm safe, though. I'm safe.
You are.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. What a great book.
That is. I love the title and I love the content.
And today we got easy names. So as I'm a passenger in Mobile Meltzer, John Jennings is easy enough, but Todd Wilson is even easier. So I'm happy I don't have any of name butchering going on. CEO of Crack My Credit, crackmycredit.com. Another area of uncertainty is understanding credit as a credit expert. And we have one of the best here, Todd Wilson. Welcome to Office Hours.
Thank you, David. I'm happy to be here.
Good to see you, Todd.
Good to see you too, Blaine.
As an entrepreneur, and as someone we had mentioned, that lost a lot of money, one of the ways that I lost my money was not understanding the credit I had, and who held it and who could take it away, even though it was perfect. It's an amazing, complex beast to understand interest rates, penalties, fees, timing, approvals. And so as a successful loan officer, a credit expert, you are a necessity for every entrepreneur to have as a mentor, a teacher, and a coach. What are some of the aspects about credit in the expertise side that are applicable to entrepreneurs today that we should be aware of?
Well, I'd say the first thing is that as an entrepreneur, you absolutely positively have to have great credit. And the reason is because if you don't, you're going to miss out opportunities and possibly lose money because of that. And then you're going to lose money, as you mentioned, just because you could have higher interest rates, late fees, that kind of thing. And, all these things combined, it can really not just lose you money, but slow down your progress. I mean, if you think as an entrepreneur, you're starting out, most entrepreneurs start out with pretty much nothing and a very low budget. And they kind of work their way to the top and they go, okay, I'm going to make this work. And, they put in the long hours and they handle all the tough things. And it just takes a long time. But if you can shorten that time frame by getting credit and using that money, put it to work correctly, then you can shorten your runway by so much. I mean, I've seen entrepreneurs start and, they've just got nothing. They've got no assets, no credit, and it's a slow roll to get up. You start making first month, you make like $4,000. You're like, woohoo! I made $4,000. I've made it. And I remember because I was there.
The tagline on your book, I think, is worth paying attention to. First of all, crack the credit code. But the tagline here, to play the game, you need to know the rules. And years ago, I literally stumbled, and I mean stumbled on the notion and the fact that the essence of every game is contained in the ground rules of the game. And if you really know the ground rules of the game, there is an immense amount of things that you can do in the game that other players aren't doing because they don't know the rule set.
Yeah.
And if you approach credit and the acquisition of credit and the utilization of credit from the perspective of there are rules that can inform what you can actually leverage and how you can actually leverage it that others aren't doing, you're going to end up in a very interesting competitive position. What are some of those rules that most people don't know about that could actually enable them to be more successful with this?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing, particularly for entrepreneurs, is the planning ahead part. Because most people, if they need to borrow money, they need it fast, they go to one of their credit cards. And, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And if you can pay it off quickly, no harm, no foul. But let's say, for example, a guy's got $10,000 in available credit, in credit cards, and he owes $3,000. So he's doing fine in terms of the amount of credit he's using, but he needs to spend $5,000 on something right now. And if he doesn't plan ahead and he just goes, okay, I'm going to spend the $5,000. Now all of a sudden he's, instead of at 30% usage, he's at 80% usage.
80%.
And not only is his credit score going to drop, but because he's at a high usage level, he can't get credit, because creditors look at that. They go, oh, well, you're using all your credit, so you're obviously a big risk, because that's what the credit bureaus tell me. And the fact is, the guy may have, like, money coming in regularly, he has no problem paying it, but they look at that credit report, and to them, it's like, it's like the New Testament in terms of finance. It's not, but that's the way they look at it. And so as an entrepreneur, you look at that, you go, okay, I need to borrow $5,000. I've got this 10,000 available credit. I'm using 3 of it. So what you want to do is go, okay, if I can't borrow it on some other way and I have to do it on credit cards, get 3 times as much as you need on credit cards. If you need 8,000 on credit cards, get 25, get 30. And that way you're using it, but to the credit bureaus, it looks like you're using credit responsibly.
Absolutely.
You're already using it responsibly. You know what you're doing. You know you can pay it off, but they have a different viewpoint of it. And so that's one of those rules of the game that it doesn't make sense to us when we first encounter it. I mean, most people learn this on the hard way. They go, what? You mean you gave me a $5,000 credit card, and if I use $5,000 on it, you're going to call me out and say, no, you're a bad risk?
Mm-hmm. Even though I pay it off monthly.
Yeah, exactly.
What about getting credit? I think a lot of great entrepreneurs think that they don't have credit and get credit. What are some of the tips about starting credit when you're starting a business and may not have what you think is credit-worthy background to get an established credit?
Well, there are 2 main things that I focus on getting people credit. Number one is, if you're just trying to build credit, you don't necessarily need credit in order to access money, but you're trying to get established. That one, I would get a secured credit card. You put $500 into a savings account, and they give you a credit card with a $500 limit. And you just use that once a month for something you normally pay cash for, maybe a tank of gas or, a trip to the grocery store or something. You get the bill, and then you pay it. That way you pay no interest, and you're building up credit. And that can work really well when you're first starting out if you don't need credit. But a much faster way to do it is to get added to somebody else's credit card as an authorized user. Now, there are a couple different ways of doing this one. Now, the first one is you go to a family member or a close friend who A, has good credit, and B, trusts you and you trust them. That's really important, because when you're getting a secured credit card, you've got to give them your social security number and your birthday. And that means that you have to trust them. And they're putting you on their credit card, so that means they have to trust you. So it's kind of a 2-way street there. The second way of doing that is one that is being done a lot, but I don't recommend it. And that is that there are companies out there that sell this as a service, that have you add it to somebody's account for like 2 or 3 months, just to get you that account so you can raise your credit score sort of on a, I really want to say, like a temporary basis. So they add you as a temporary account holder on that account. And so your credit score can go up quickly, but then at the end of that time, it goes away. But there are 3 other potential pitfalls of doing this. Number one, it's not cheap. I had somebody come to me for a mortgage, and they did this, and they'd spent, I forget how much. It was like $3,000 or $4,000 to get added onto somebody's account. And I went, well, that's just stupid. You could get a secured credit card, put that same money in, and just put $100 a month on it. There, you've got your low usage just like that, and it stays there. It doesn't go away. That's the number one thing. Number 2 is, obviously, you're giving your personal information to somebody you don't know, and you're trusting that it doesn't go anywhere you don't want it to go. So that's kind of a big risk.
Yeah.
The third thing is actually more on the part of the person who adds you onto their account, because if they don't know you, they can have their account closed. because creditors are getting wise to this. They say, hey, if you don't know this person and you can't explain your relationship to them, they will take both of you off of that account, and that account is now closed.
Yeah. And you're dead in the water.
That's right. Well, and here's another interesting fact that I found out recently. If you get added onto somebody's card that's an Amex, you don't get the entire history of that card. You just get the history since you were added to it. I know.
Whoops. Bait and switch.
But if you do a secured card, you're much better putting $100 than nothing on it, right? You want to actually have credit, right?
Use it.
Exactly. A few years ago, we were doing this what if scenario on a credit report for somebody who was going for a mortgage. And he was doing the, charge up his card every month for work. And then at the end of the month, he'd pay it off. And so to get his score up, we did a what if, and okay, what if he pays it off? And then his credit score would go up to X score. And then just on a hunch, we said, okay, what if he pays it off except for $100? And his credit score actually was 20 points higher with a balance than with no balance.
Right.
Interesting.
I know, it makes no sense, but we don't get to make up the rules.
We just need to know what they are so we can use them.
Exactly.
Well, I will tell you from someone that understands much more about credit now, and it is one of the greatest capabilities that we have in the United States. And if you're not an expert at it, it's great to find an expert. It can make all the difference as an entrepreneur or in your life, especially in homeownership, because obviously that's one of the greatest assets that we're afforded as well with leveraging credit. Buying a home has so many advantages in our lives as an asset, as you know, in the lending side of things as well. So Todd Wilson is our expert, CEO of Crack My Credit, crackmycredit.com. Make sure that you're leveraging all of the
Okay. That was a little garbled at the end there, David, but I think we got the message.
We did. Well, and I have to say right now, my website's being worked on. So if you go to crackmycredit.com now, you should probably wait until mid next week, and then it'll actually be back up and running.
Okay.
Oh, good. I'm glad your website's about as good as my interview. So we're all breaking up here. So thanks so much. Take care. Thank you, Todd.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Todd. Great information. That's really good stuff.
All right.
I think
I
know where you are on the road when the signal starts to degrade like that. I got a hunch about where you're at.
Yeah, man. You know where I'm at exactly. John Ricketts is in the house, I hope, as I'm on the road. Yeah, very good.
There he is.
Hey, John.
Hey, David.
Great to meet you. John is the CEO of Writerly, and I'm just every day we're talking more and more about AI, and I always talk about technology, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, as a servant, not a master. And I've been trying to help entrepreneurs not be afraid of now the greatest servant given to us. I did a meetup today before I went in to see Howie Mandel, and the person said to me, Mr. Meltzer, I don't want to be rude, but some of the stuff that you say goes over my head. And what can I do? I don't really understand. I want to understand what you're talking about. I like what you talk about, but I don't understand it all. How can I, understand what you're talking about? I said, take what I'm saying, put it into Chat GPT, and say, explain this to me like I'm an 8-year-old, and it'd be the best way to do it. And he was surprised. Really, that can be done. Well, you understand the power of this servant. So I want to talk about how you're utilizing AI as a servant and what pitfalls we can see if you don't use it as a servant, but use it as a master.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's what we're all really trying to solve right now is how do we leverage, how do we harness this in its current state? And, from Writerly's perspective, we're a no-code SaaS platform that's allowing casual users and super users to be able to leverage AI in meaningful ways, particularly in the business sense. Historically, you've had prompt engineers and coders and those with technical expertise that were able to really generate extremely meaningful outputs for business use cases. And on the release of GPT-3 last year, actually about a year and a half ago, GPT-4 most recently, we now have the ability to create more, create faster, create better than we ever have before. And when I say create, it's anything from e-commerce product descriptions to marketing content, sales enablement. They really extend to each and every team inside of a business organization, be it HR, operations, finance, and the use cases, just keep becoming more apparent each week. And it's really about it's working at a cadence and a speed that's never before seen. And a lot of people have difficulty understanding, what that really means. And so we're anchored to ChatGPT. And OpenAI has done a fantastic job in sort of, educating and conditioning a market to sort of get a taste of what AI can do for them in a casual sense. And what we're trying to do and what we're trying to solve is how do you take that sort of cursory level excitement around AI and translate that into powerful use cases for business. And so far, I think we've done a pretty nice job. But it's a complicated subject, and it's an intimidating subject. AI is moving at a very rapid pace, and we're trying to bring that down to a digestible level in a no-code format, so that really everyone, like I said, from a casual user to a super user, can really experience what it can do for them and for a business.
I've been playing around with this for some time since it actually appeared on the landscape. And I was at a business lunch today talking with a couple of folks, and one of them asked what I thought was one of the best questions I've heard in a long, long time. And part of the discussion was organized around, the future of AI, ChatGPT, specifically as we were talking. And it struck me, and this is something that I've done a lot with my coaching work, with the executives I work with, is inviting them to really take time and craft high quality questions in order to cause the kind of movement that they need to get in order to get the results that they say they want. So backing that up, I was struck by the quality of the question that I was asked, and it translated into basically the prompts that we use to get in information. And it's probably the most visible way I've seen of illustrating the power of high quality questions, because it's so immediate and it is so actionable if you're doing it well. And this is what leaders do. Leaders are looking to cause movement. The kind of movement I get depends on the quality of the questions I ask. So how much of your work, particularly with use case scenarios, is organized around the structure of high quality prompts?
Yeah, so I think to answer your question specifically is all of our work is centered around embedding high quality prompts, because the quality of the prompt dictates the quality of the output. And so that's a relative scale, right? We can all acknowledge that. As I mentioned earlier, I say historically, and I use that in a sort of a satirical sense, in that history within AI is very recent. But your greatest output generators have come from prompt engineers and those with a deep technical background that can really dig in and prompt the foundation model in such a way that it produces exactly what that person is seeking. So the problem that we set out to solve about a year ago was, why is that ability or capability only centered with a select few, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get the degree of fidelity of output that is controlled by the prompt engineer into the hands of everyone from a business standpoint to create more economic value is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people the ability to drive more economic benefit on behalf of their companies. And in doing so, you sort of, we don't really like to use the word democratize, but in a sense it is. It's democratizing access to prompts. So all of our work is centered around how do we take the casual user who is not trained in prompt engineering and allow them to derive the same level of AI output that those who are. And that's where we're focused, and that seems to be what our businesses and our partners and our customers are really looking for at this moment.
And how much of the AI is utilizing AI in order to make AI better?
Yeah, so it's a fair question because, in a sense, AI is made better by training, and a lot of the training data can be produced by AI. And so if you think about it, you want to train on the perspective of highest quality inputs and training data, whether that's from an existing business case study or it works from a human, from a writer, from a historian, whatever the original source may be. And it turns out that some sources that are produced by AI are very good at being used as training material for future AI outputs. So in a sense, you want to avoid an echo chamber. You don't want your models to be saying the same things over and over and over again. But the way that these fine-tuned models are trained and the direction that the entire market is going, the more training data that is of high quality, irrespective of sort of the originating source, is better.
Irrespective of the originating source, that I think that's important because that's just the seed, and out of that, there's all kinds of things that can be accessed. And if we're looking at natural language prompting, which is essentially what you're speaking about here, is how do I? It's not so much a how do I, but what is the caution that I need to be aware of when I'm relying on the output, particularly in validation of, is this factual or not? Is this actually relevant to what I actually thought I was asking, sort of a thing? How do you sort through that with your mind?
I mean, I think it's what we do in everyday life, right? We look for sources of truth. And whether it's a Google search, whether it's Wikipedia, I think there has to be a degree of questioning the authenticity and the accuracy of what's being put out there. Obviously, AI is tremendously powerful in terms of speed, in terms of recognition, in terms of creation, in terms of analyzing large sets of data. But it's incumbent upon the user to actually check the work, right? It's not something at this stage that we're ready to say, look, it's production ready. Like anything, we encourage our users, we encourage users of any type of AI to just check, right? There has to be an editorial process to make sure that what's being produced is accurate. And yeah, there are inaccuracies. With every new technology, there are some gaps. Those gaps will get filled over time as the technology improves. But it's really, it kind of mimics everyday life. We want to make sure that what we are producing is authentic. We check our sources, and we're safe from that standpoint.
Yeah, it reminds me of I was driving over to Big Sur, years ago, and Apple Maps was up and running, just one of the first iterative versions of Apple Maps. And as I was following the road, I realized that where I was going was going to actually put me in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it was kind of like, well, I'm glad I fact-checked this data, because that turn could have been catastrophe if I hadn't been paying some attention to it. So that's essentially what I'm hearing you say with this is, not only buyer beware, but don't not consume because of fear, but be in a position to fact-check reliably if you're going to rely on this for an enterprise-level decision.
Exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, natural language is a very powerful tool. We're exploring a lot of different applications and new use cases almost on a weekly basis. The source of the information in the data set is very valuable in terms of producing an authentic and sort of truthful output. As you sort of expand that and you work with foundation models that are pulling from trillions of pieces of information across the internet, it becomes even more important.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just we have a few minutes before we bring Michael in on the ease of the low learning curve. It is a positive, but yet a negative. How do you explain to people who ask, hey, how easy is it to use? Because I think therein lies a lot of the danger and fear that it's easy to use, but we don't want it to be the end all, as you suggest. Or else we'll end up in the middle of the ocean, no pun intended. How easy it to use, but yet for the new user, what would you suggest to get started with in its use?
That's a great question, and it's one that I think a lot of our peer companies have also been trying to solve, because there is this AI hesitancy that's in the marketplace. There's a curiosity, but people are, we're all naturally hesitant about new tools, and specifically how trustworthy these new tools are. I think we're at a point right now where things that are largely benign, in the sense of an AI chatbot, an AI blog writer, an AI email assistant, are really good first steps to sort of get a user acclimated to what they can expect from an output. And then obviously they can work their way up from there. Would not recommend starting out with some of the more complicated use cases where your organization is depending upon you to deliver something very important by a deadline. This, like anything else, is going to be a very useful tool for enterprises for a long time. AI is here to stay. It's only going to become more prevalent. But think about when CRMs first came out, when Salesforce first came out, HubSpot. It's a new tool that is aimed at productivity. Can you do it all day one? No. But there's an iterative process from the user standpoint that they can become familiar with it, and then sort of self-teach. And there's some wonderful resources that we've seen pop up over the last few months. These boot camps. There's graduate school courses now on AI prompting. It's the resources that support the learning of the technology are almost growing as fast as the technology itself at this point, which is good to see, because we all have to learn.
Amazing. Yeah. John Ricketts leading the way into the future. The greatest servant yet in technology is AI. Let's use it accordingly. And don't forget, there's always that simple solution of asking for help. CEO of Writerly. Check out writerly.ai. John Ricketts, please come back. Everyone found this extremely valuable. We have many more shows and would love to learn more in the context of being more interested than interesting, which is what I use AI for. So thanks for joining us. We'll have you back soon.
Hey, great. Thanks, guys. Look forward to coming back.
Thanks, John. You bet.
Thank you. All right. So we were talking about tools of productivity. Our next CEO and CFO and co-founder of Pray.com, the #1 praying app. Talk about productivity. There's nothing more productive than prayer. And Pray.com, they have the app that makes prayer easy and gives us a whole bunch of assistance in having faith and asking for more from a universe of more than enough. I always enjoy one of the superstars of our TV shows and other places, the incredible Michael Lynn. Thanks for joining me here in Blaine on Office Hours.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting. And any chance I can talk about prayer, it's a good day.
Yeah, me too. On our mission, we're all aligned. But what I love about talking about prayer, getting more business awards. It's so beautiful. You get all the business awards, and we're changing the world for the better at the same time. So, what is it about prayer.com as an app? Obviously, everybody prays, but what is it about your app that makes prayer so accessible and productive, so easy to use, that you're winning all these great awards?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Thank you for asking. So Pray.com is pretty unique. If you actually surveyed the world first, and you surveyed the world and asked them what was the first thing that they did that morning, people would say they pray. In fact, billions of people would say they pray. And so how are they praying? What are the actions they're taking to pray? And, when we started this company almost 7 years ago, we said there needs to be an easier way to pray. There needs to be a way that people currently are consuming content, which is through mobile apps. Let's build a platform that helps people pray. And so that's really the genesis, pardon the pun, of pray.com, is we wanted to make it an easy thing for people to do, which is what's unique about our platform is every single morning we have a daily prayer. Every single afternoon, we have an afternoon prayer. Every single evening, we have an evening prayer. And so throughout the day, you get to pray. And what happens when you pray is actually a change in your the gray matter density in your brain. If you do it on a regular basis, maybe you might even say a religious basis, it will actually change the gray matter density in your brain. And once that happens, you will feel better. It changes the emotional regulation of your brain. Once you feel better, guess what you're going to do? One, you're going to be happier. I know that's important for you, David, right? You're going to be happier. But second, you're going to make other people happy, because happy people, they like to be happy around others, right? And those people get happy, and all of a sudden everyone's happy and we're feeling good. So, I think the fact that we've made such a incredible platform to make people happy and to feel better about themselves is what's really our key to our success.
I'm asking this purely out of curiosity here, because I'm not real familiar with the app, and the idea of prayer I've been involved with for forever. I mean, for me, it's a form of meditation, gratitude. All of that stuff kind of gets bundled into this, and this is just the curiosity question. My assumption, and do push back on me if I'm wrong with this, but my assumption is that it's a Judeo-Christian centric app. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yep, we have Christian content. It's really
Okay.
Bible-based content.
Bible-based, okay. So if I was of a different religious persuasion, how useful will I find this to be? Because there's billions of people on this planet that are mobile users, and this would be such a powerful tool for them. If they could get their head around, I can actually use this.
Yes, and that's what makes us unique. We are pray.com, right? So inherent in the name, it's about prayer. Now, our content happens to be Bible-based content. By the way, Bible-based content is healing, helpful content.
Yes, it
and
is.
So we've got, what's interesting about pray.com is our user base, our members, are from people from all different backgrounds. And we've done the surveys. We've asked. We wanted to find out, hey, are Muslims using our platform? Are atheists using our platform? Who's using our platform? And we were finding that, yes, they actually do use it. Now at lower rates, but they were using it. And so I think that's an important component of what we're doing at Pray is we are an inclusive platform. We believe in the power of prayer. Anyone can use pray.com. There is no restrictions. And we don't want to put those restrictions on it. We don't want to say this is a Christian only platform. No, this is Bible-based content. And, if you think about it where we're at, we just got out of this horrible pandemic. And what's going on is there's a hidden pandemic right now that's happening, and it's raging. And it's a mental health pandemic.
Yep.
And so Bible-based content and faith-based content is really the solve for this. It really is. And so we need to get this in the hands of more people, because anxiety, depression, those are the things that happen when you come out of something like this, where you're in the house all day long. You come out and you lose some of those social skills you have. You lose some of the friends you've had. And, where do you turn? And I think this is a great place to turn. And it's a great place to have that one-on-one relationship where you can get content and get that help. And it doesn't matter what your faith background is. It's, hey, do you believe in really helpful content that can get you through the day?
Well, and I think it's more than that to me, Michael. And I send, as you know, we're on the same mission to empower people to be happy, that will change the world by utilizing a collective consciousness. And why I send everyone of every denomination to pray.com is that I see with the acceleration of the community that you're building, one of the top lifestyle apps in the world of positivity, that, for so many years, all of the thought leaders have said, if, I remember Dr. Wayne Dyer telling me, if I was going to change the world with world peace, I would get everyone to pray at the same time for world peace. And that is truly the long-term, for me, capability that pray.com has, is that, as we go from over 10 million people to 100 million people to 1 billion people, which is my mission. Imagine, Blaine, because you know this stuff better than Michael and I, imagine to be able to create prayer that is for solving or healing dis-ease of some kind that was plaguing the world. And yet now you have 1 billion people on the platform, and we all pray at the same time, the same prayer for ease. I'm convinced in a quantum metaphysical, physical sense that scientifically that it would cure the disease. And that is the power we're seeing in a microcosm with prayer. How much on your roadmap do you see this idea of a collective consciousness of healing certain specific issues? And will we be able to use pray.com to hopefully heal the world someday?
I believe we will. I have faith that we will. And it really comes around the mission. The mission is to grow faith and cultivate community. And the cultivate community part is critical. You need to have a community of people working together, feeling like this is a collective group of people that believe in the same thing. And, you can only do that having a community of focus, a community mindset. Something interesting about pray.com is we have the largest service in the world every single day. So what does that mean? We have more people in our app collectively around faith-based content at the same time every single day than the biggest churches that have ever existed. And so if you think about it, we're running the largest ministry on the planet. And what are we actually telling people? We're saying, hey, there's really helpful content here to make you feel better. Loneliness is something that's really, ravaging us right now. People are lonely. Suicide rates that are all-time highs. Now, if you have a collective group of people that are coming together and say, hey, you don't need to feel this way. We're actually here for you. I think that's where we need to go, David, in terms of like the roadmap. You want an experience where you're going to get, have people you can connect to one-on-one. You can have a community that you can speak to, you can speak with. And we have some of those prayer communities right now. I think there's more opportunity as we move forward and actually bring on more large ministries that have current followers and say, hey, bring your content to pray.com. Let's bring everybody together, which is why we're building a platform and why platforms are so powerful, because the more people you can bring in, the network effects get even better.
Network, yeah, it's an exponential impact.
Yes.
Joel Osteen, let's bring him on. Michael Lynn, we need more of you. We need more of the app. It's so easy. Use pray.com. Try it. I promise you it will bring joy and happiness. Make it your practice to pray and have assistance in praying, but pray with others. It has a historical, not determinative on your religion, philosophy, spirituality, and even theories. I promise you, we are only helping each other by praying together, regardless of our dogmatic beliefs. So please, everyone, Michael, you have a VIP pass to everything I do. The world needs more of you and pray.com. And next time I get down to Joel, I'm the head of Jews for Joel Osteen. He has a big audience. Let's bring all the TBN people over.
Let's do it.
Some prayer every day. Awesome.
Sounds like
Please,
a plan.
Promise me you'll come on more of our shows and we could talk more about the power of prayer.
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, brother. Thank you so much. God bless you. Keep up the great work. All right. Awesome. We've had 4 extraordinary guests. So
full
Blaine,
show
what's
today.
Your
Full
takeaway
show.
of the day? Yes, sir.
I think the biggest one has to do with just the nature of questions. and we certainly had that illustrated. I think, when we were talking, to John around, prompts, but the idea of questions, certainty, how to question, how do I know what to do when I don't know what to do? The power of prayer, because I'm actually in conversation with the unknown, in one sense. So this idea of being able to formulate high quality questions, to use the questions that are available to me that I oftentimes don't even explore, I think is something that most people don't have experience with creating or generating. And it's something that if they took the time to really experiment and play with, what kind of question would serve best in this situation to cause the kind of movement I need to get the results that I say I want? That's where I think all four of our guests in some way, shape, or form touched on today.
Yeah, mine is very similar as usual, but it's about faith, and how faith is interrelated into uncertainty, whether it be in investing, even faith in, crack my credit. If you think about it, there's a certain amount of faith. And he was talking about, do we put our names on other people's credit, or do we have faith in the credit bureaus, or we have faith in the economy or the stock market? Obviously, AI requires a lot of faith, and I think it is causing a lot of interference to that, and how we utilize future technologies for the better as a servant, not as our master. And obviously, nothing like faith in pray.com. So I have faith in you, and I have faith in goodness, and I look forward to our next time together. Thank you so much. Send my love to Cynthia. BlaineBartlett.com. He is one of the world's greatest mentors. Need I say more? Thanks for joining me on Office Hours.
Buddy, I love you.
I love you too. Enjoy the weather. All right, everyone. We're here every day. Office Hours is, I don't even know how many hundreds of episodes, almost 500 episodes. Be happy, everyone. Have faith. Pray. Ask for help. Ask the right questions. Utilize technology in the right manner. Tomorrow's training is at 6 a.m. Pacific time. It's free. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Register. Over 80,000 people registered for training. I send my book out as well for free. I sign the book. I send it to you. I pay for shipping and the book. david@dmeltzer.com. Please join me tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Every single platform I'm on. But email me. We'll get you registered. david@dmeltzer.com. Be more interested than interesting. Thank you, Gigi, and thank you, Raluca, for producing the show. I'll look for your recommendations of our four guests of how we can continue our conversations and help each other. david@dmeltzer.com. Be more interested than interesting. But most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow.